Every breach has a story. Every leader has a strategy. Coming to you from St. Louis, this is the Professional CISO Show.
That's crazy.
Your backstage pass to the minds of the world's most influential security leaders.
What are going to be the dramatic impacts of AI?
Let's dive in with your host, David Malicoat.
Welcome, one and all, to the Professional CISO Show. I'm your host, David Malicoat. This show is an exploration of the topics necessary to transform the role of the CISO into that of a professional. All right, gang, let's get started. One, we are in St. Louis, Missouri, and we've got some good stuff coming up. We're kicking off the tour here in St. Louis, as well as this is our first interview, and we've got a great one here for you. So before we start, I just want to say, best way to make sure that you still get this content, that it continues to be great like it is, hit the follow button on Spotify and Apple, and then hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on LinkedIn, and of course, share it with a friend or colleague or a family member if they happen to be in cyber. Okay? All right, so we're going to get right into it. Welcome, Gary Chan.
Thanks for having me here, David. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, had a great time getting to know you a little bit in our pre-meeting, so to speak. If you would, give us kind of that 1 to 2 minute history of Gary Chan, like what got you started in tech. I really like to start there because I like to have people like to hear kind of where you started your nerd journey, for lack of a better way to put it, because we all started our nerd journey one way or another, and then kind of take us through to where you're at today.
Sounds great. Well, David, I've loved computers since I was a kid. My father had one, and I used it. Of course, you play video games, do a little bit of basic programming. Anyway, I went to MIT, graduated with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science. I then went on to do IT work, which very quickly, after a couple of years, turned into security work. So I've been doing security for over 2 decades at this point.
Quick question: Did it find you? Or was it a conscious choice? You're like, man, this is the direction I want to go.
I would say I happened to come across a job description that looked really cool. I didn't really understand what it was at the time, but it was an anti-fraud position. But at the time, I didn't really understand what that was beyond the very high level. And I applied for the job. And fortunately, they made me an offer. And I just loved it. So I started out in anti-identity fraud. I did that for quite some time. And then as part of that, I then started adding cybersecurity into that role. So I was sort of doing a combination of that. And then I eventually switched over completely to cybersecurity. And then I guess the rest is history. But I've done consulting work. I've worked at systems integrators and value-added resellers, and also work on the internal side now. So yeah, that's been my journey on the cyber side. And alongside of that, I know you and I were talking a little bit. I've been doing a lot of magic and mentalism, and I use a lot of those sort of skills and things like that on the job, just to keep things sort of engaging and, for lack of a better word, entertaining for folks. And I kind of incorporate and combine the two to do security awareness training, for example.
And so, always about the pitch. So if you would give us your website. So for anybody who wants to go look deeper into Gary on the mentalist side.
Sure. So you can go, just look me up, Gary Chan Security Mentalist on Google. I'll come right up. Otherwise, if you can remember my website, it's gschan2000.com. So as I was telling David before, this was my personal website a long time ago, and then it just sort of evolved over time. So that's why it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
And we'll roll those in the show notes. So nice and easy there. All right, so I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here. Any chance that we could do just a real quick mentalism thing right now?
Sure. Well, I'll do it with you. So mentalism is very personalized, right? I think that's what sort of distinguishes it from sort of like bigger or sort of broader statistics models and things like that. So what I have here is a deck of cards. And
we didn't set this up, by the way. I'm laughing because like we've been hanging out for like 30 minutes and I had no idea he had a deck of cards in his pocket, but I shouldn't be surprised, I suppose. But go ahead. Sorry.
David, if you would just, do you have a hobby or something that you wouldn't mind sharing with your audience?
Yes, actually, I would. I'm not necessarily present, but in my kind of previous life, I like to do plastic models.
Oh,
So put together like military aircraft or things like that.
very cool. So plastic models, and I'm rolling up my sleeves for those of you who are listening to this only, so that David knows that I have nothing up my sleeves, because that's what
Literally.
people always ask. Yeah. So I want you to just imagine a scene in your mind
Okay.
of you with these plastic models, and I want you to describe it to the audience. What is it that you see, so that we can all see the same thing?
Yeah, so I see basically like usually there's a cellophane wrapper on the box, and you kind of have to take that off, and then you open the box. It's usually like there's a negative air pressure, so it kind of has to pull a little bit, and it comes open. You open it up. Typically, there's the instructions on the top, a nice set of sheets for the instructions, and then you have the trees inside, which are the plastic things that hold the pieces, right? So they've been molded. And you have to tend to cut those off and all that good stuff. So that's kind of how you start the process.
Oh, very cool. And in this scene, are there people around you, or is it just you?
No, it's very, very, very isolated.
Very isolated.
Yeah, very.
And it's in a room or a studio or something?
Typically in a room.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want you to just imagine that you notice on the floor, you're just sort of looking around the room. You notice that there's like a card or something that's on the floor.
Okay.
In this room with your models. Of course, it doesn't really fit there. So you bend over, you pick up that card, and you look at it and you visualize that card. Ace through King, 4 suits. It fell out of a deck of cards. What card is that card that you're looking at?
4 of hearts.
Okay, you take that 4 of hearts and you put it back into the deck, but you actually put it upside down.
Okay.
So in this imaginary scene, can you imagine you had some models, and then you had a 4 of hearts now on the table in your room with the 4 of hearts upside down? Well, I'd like you to take a look here. That I have a deck of cards, and you may have to lean over a bit. But I have a whole bunch of cards.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one card that's upside down. If you would, just go ahead, take a look at it. And tell everybody what it is.
That's amazing. That's crazy.
And it's the 4 of hearts.
It is the 4 of hearts for those that are listening and not watching. Okay, you got me, Gary.
Yeah. So this is all, just very briefly, it's all about kind of like Markov chains, where you talk about large language models, and all I'm doing is guiding you, because everybody always asks, well, hi, Gary, how'd you do that? So you're just guiding you to the probability of you getting to the...
Now, I will say this. It's interesting because when you took me through that, like that literally popped into my head. Like I can say it was like, bam, there was not, oh, let me think about it. It was like, there it was. So it's fascinating that, I don't know how I got there. I can tell you that, but I'm a believer. Amazing work. And by the way, if you ever need somebody for security awareness or, some sort of presentation or whatever, I know, it's a for-profit thing for you. So think about hiring him, whether it be like an ISA thing or somebody like that. It'd be amazing to see out there, because that's great stuff, bro.
Oh, thanks.
Do you know how many enterprises still depend on outdated workspace security or rely on MSPs as their first line of defense against phishing and ransomware? Checkpoint surveyed over 1,000 security leaders across the U.S., and now they're sharing those insights at the 2025 Workspace Security Insights Roadshow. Across 5 stops this fall, Denver, Jersey City, Houston, Atlanta, and Tysons, you'll hear what CISOs are saying about the gap between risk and readiness, whether Microsoft and Google's native defenses are enough, and how AI and automation can scale security for the future. Don't miss your chance to stay ahead of tomorrow's threats. Register today. You can register at engage.checkpoint.com/2025-workspace-security-insights-roadshow, or follow the link in the show notes. Okay, now we'll get back to kind of the main point, which is, but all wholly entertaining. The premise of the show for us is, what's the future of the CISO, right? Where are we headed? What do we need to be doing? How do we need to develop ourselves, or how do we need to develop the role itself for how people are developing themselves to become CISOs in the future? So what is your take on that? Where do we need to head as this role, from your seat, your experience? Where do we need to go?
Sure. Well, I would say there's sort of it's two sort of types of things that we need to look at. The first is from a technical standpoint, the other is from more of a leadership standpoint. So from a technical standpoint, we always need to be on the understanding the latest tech that's coming out. And right now, I think we all know what the hottest word is: AI, right?
Of course.
So artificial intelligence, we got to keep up to date with that. So understanding what frameworks are out there to even analyze these things. What are the bad guys doing? How are the good guys using it? Like all of these things, how that works. These are all very, very important for us to be able to really stay on top of the technology. And then the other half of it is really around leadership and being able to tell that story. It's all about storytelling whenever you're a senior leader, so that people can sort of take that in at a high level and then be able to understand how it applies to the business. Because if it doesn't apply to the business, and it doesn't have to be for profit, it could be nonprofit, it could be for whatever. When I say the business, I just mean the mission for why your organization exists. Right. If you can tell that story where you're constantly linking what it is that you do to the existence of the organization or how it advances it, then that's how your department actually gets the funding it needs in order to do the work, to do the technical side of the job. So I would say those two things are the most important.
I want to hit each one of those in turn. So from the innovation perspective, is there anything that you tend to lean toward or do to keep yourself in the know when it comes to the innovation side and how you adopt it?
Sure. I would say that there's both pull and push, right? So pull, there's certain things that I will always read. So I actually really like the Wired magazine. Has a lot of really good technology content. But of course, my alma mater, MIT, has a bunch of stuff that comes out all the time, and just anything that's in the news, right? And especially if it's on any of the major news channels, whether it's CNN, Fox, or NBC or whatever. Like if it's there, you probably should know about it, right?
Because you're bored and your CEO knows about it.
Exactly, right? So that's the pull, and then there's the push content. So if you've been in the role for more than like 2 months, because of all of these companies that sell your data, you've got resellers, you've got vendors, you've got all those people sending and pushing you stuff. So if you start seeing the same thing over and over and over again from the vendors, you probably should pay attention. So even if you do nothing and you're the laziest guy whatsoever, as long as you're able to read your email, you're probably going to at least know
right.
some of the topics that are going to come up. But hopefully you do a little more than that.
And they will let you know times 10 from the email
right.
side.
That's right.
And so from the leadership side, what do we need to be doing relative to, I think you had mentioned like the leading outward to be able to help do what you need to do inward. So how are you engaging with the outside of your organization to be able to be effective? What are some of the things that you're doing around that?
Sure. So, going around, whether it's at conferences and meeting with folks, or whether it's just the CISO community. So the CISO community in St. Louis, which is, as David said, where we are right now, we were joking. It's an incredibly tight knit group. Yeah. So if somebody sneezes, everybody else knows. It's really just going about, and especially whatever organization that you are, you're probably not the only one that has that mission. There's going to be at least one other organization in town that does similar type of work. So finding those people, it's pretty easy. You just go to LinkedIn, send a connection request and connect with them. And if you just talk once a quarter or something like that. So like I talk with the CISO of BJC, which is, just down the road from us on a fairly frequent basis. And, his challenges are my challenges, right. And we can exchange ideas. So, going out and just talking with folks, pretty straightforward thing to do. And there are plenty of opportunities also with vendors as well. They're more than happy to engage if you reach out to them to talk about anything.
Absolutely. All right, so let's shift a little bit to engaging the business itself, right? So we just talked about the external side. Kind of give us your thoughts on how you're effectively engaging and influencing your stakeholders in your business, and to hopefully secure bigger budgets, get those cultural changes you're looking for, because obviously that's that can be a big challenge. So talk to us how you're approaching that.
Sure. And I'm going to actually tell you about the impact before I answer your question, because I feel like people will then want to know.
Don't bury the lead on us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So the approach that I take, this the CEO loves like my presentations, and she's actually driven up to Chicago, and brought some friends to watch me perform some mentalism and stuff, which also has a bunch of security stuff in it. And then for Christmas, I get Christmas cards, unsolicited Christmas cards from employees that tell me how much they love my security awareness, my team's security awareness training. So this one person wrote, "I can't believe that I'm writing a Christmas card to the CISO to thank them for mandatory security awareness training." So just let that sink in.
That's
right?
amazing.
So that's the impact. And actually, what I just did right there is exactly what it is that I do elsewhere, right? You don't just explain to folks about the stuff, you explain the impact, because when it's the impact, that's when it feels more real. Now you want to know, what are the things that I do, right? What are some of those things?
Right.
And so I actually, for my character, I say character like my personality, I like having fun. And so I try to keep everything super engaging. And imagine this, right? So you're going to a board meeting, you're asking for some funds, like ahead of time, I ordered some fortune cookies. And fortune cookies, you can write whatever you want in it.
Yeah.
So I ordered them, and I obviously know what's written on them because I wrote it. And then I get those, and then they're having Chinese food for lunch. So then I drop off the fortune cookies, and I know what is written on each one, and they're all different. And imagine,
are they targeted per person?
Yes.
Oh, I love
yes.
it. Yes.
And so this is where some of the magic comes in, right? Like you just walk by and you like kind of drop it off. So nobody knows that like I'm setting it up. You just sort of do it, and then it's just there, right? So imagine when the CFO opens the cookie and it says, "Today's a great day to increase the security budget." Like, it's fun. People want you there, right? So like I'm invited to meetings when really I have no reason to be there otherwise, right? Because they're like, "Oh, well, we kind of like having Gary around." And so, but by being there, I'm now present in people's minds, and then they think about it, right? So it's not that I had no reason. It's just that, like, initially when you're thinking about it, you don't normally think security, but then now you're there, right? Now you have a seat at the table. And so these are the things that I do. They're very gimmicky, but they work.
Right.
And I can push out new policy that people don't like, but like they don't complain because we engage them in a really fun way to where they understand the impact, and then they may not be happy about it, but they actually never complain about it.
Cyber warfare isn't coming, it's already here, and AI is changing the battlefield. The 2025 Cyber Warfare Report from Armis uncovers how AI is being weaponized by nation-state actors and how forward-thinking organizations are using AI to fight back. This isn't just a report, it's your playbook for cyber resiliency in a world where attacks strike faster than ever. Download your free copy now using the link in the description of this episode or by visiting armis.com/cyberwarfare and stay one step ahead. Are you going to be at RSA Conference in San Francisco from April 28th to May 1st? Drop by and visit us at the North Hall booth N5457, where you can talk to our experts and win a prize, all while giving back to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Visit armis.com/RSAC2025 for more information.
Right. Love it. All right. So I think this really kind of goes along similar, but let's talk more specifics, like around a business case, right? Mm-hmm. So how are you crafting compelling business cases for security investments, right? And it can't just be, the message to the CFO to give us more money, right?
That's right.
So how are you crafting those things with senior leadership to make them effective?
Sure. So business cases, first off, if you're a cybersecurity leader and you want to make a business case, avoid as much as possible the phrase, "because this will reduce risk." So they've heard it 1,000 times before. It just doesn't work very well. So you need to really understand what it is that each of your stakeholders, so figure out who are your key stakeholders, the ones who are really going to be saying approve and then giving you the money, and figure out how they think, and then craft a story that helps them understand and bring it home, right? So as an example, and I love patching as an example, because I think the standard story is very straightforward and it's a bad story. But the standard story is, hey, you should patch because it reduces risk. Well, imagine if you patched a whole bunch of stuff, but like nobody actually tried to exploit them. Then you just actually spent a bunch of money, but you'd actually got no benefit. Right. So you didn't actually reduce any risk. You're just following a quote unquote best practice. So the story that I tell is, because on the firewalls, right? And so like, I see my checkpoint friend over there. We have, checkpoint firewalls, and you can actually see that when bad guys kind of make an attack. So I can actually tell folks, I can tell the CFO that, hey, remember that thing that you saw on CNN.com where there was a Microsoft vulnerability for Exchange? Well, that came out, and I'm making up times now, I don't remember, but it did actually happen. 9 a.m. it came out, the publication came out, our team patched at 11 a.m. At 3 p.m. we could see on the checkpoint firewalls that somebody just tried to attack. Well, if we didn't patch and we had waited another 5 hours or whatever it was, then they would have been able to see all of your emails. Do you think that he's going to support patching now?
Absolutely.
So it just really tells the story in a way in which that person can understand.
And to me, your story goes to the transparency, right? Showing how the sausage is made, but not necessarily the gruesome parts, right? Let's say. And then I think the other is keeping us from being a black box, right? Because I think we have a tendency to do that. Do you experience that? Is that kind of part of what you're talking about there, to say, look, give them the understanding? Like we need to understand the business processes. How about they maybe understand the why and the process behind how those things happen?
Absolutely. And I think this sort of goes to something that one of my other good friends sort of taught me many years ago. Because when I was doing consulting, and he's like, Gary, you're always giving everything away. You tell everybody all the technical details and all that. Well, there are smart people who now they're just going to take your free advice and go do it, and they're never going to hire you. So I learned, and you know what? The folks, especially if you're already an employee versus a consultant, they actually don't care about how you're going about doing it. They care about the why. They care that you give them confidence that you can. And so if you can explain those sorts of things as opposed to all the technical details, one, they're going to want to hire you. That's really the most important. And then two, you actually get the funding and all of the other things and the support to go be able to do what it is that you're actually there to do.
Love it. All right, shifting again a little bit. Let's talk your career. So you've spent time in consulting, as you said, spent time at value-added reseller, and now more corporate healthcare. So can you talk about your journey a little bit and kind of maybe some tidbits along the way, right? What were there realizations? Were there, how did it build up for you to, and honestly get to the executive role?
Sure. So I think I learned some very different things from each of those. So from a consulting standpoint, I thought that was an incredible way to just see a lot of different clients and how they do business, just really absorbing and understanding, and because you get to see not only different industries, but even within the same industry, how different businesses do work, what does work and what doesn't work. So it was just basically a motley of examples, right? So consulting was fantastic for me for that foundation of these are all the things that are possible. So
I always tell people that you learn in dog years when you're in the consulting realm. So
yeah. That's exactly. And then value-added reseller, a lot of it was seeing the business side of things, the business problems that people are trying to solve, right? Because in the end, they're not trying to solve a technical problem. They're trying to solve a business problem. And I know you must run into that all the time as a CISO.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the time.
So understanding how the CFO, I always use them as an example because every company has a CFO. But CFO, COO, it doesn't really matter. Like that, how they look at the issues, because that's how you need to frame your stories. Mm-hmm. And then internally, which is the technical aspect, And then how do you get all the technical stuff done, right? So each of those three, I would say, groups of things really shaped my understanding of the business world, how to, and then is allowing me to be successful at my current role.
And so talk to us a little bit about where did you pick up the executive side of things? Because it doesn't come innately. I think obviously the advantages relative to the consulting, I think VAR, it sounds like to me, just from, outside looking in.
Yeah.
But that tended to be a little bit earlier in your career. So is there anything that you sought out or did personally in your development to really get those executive skills honed?
Yeah. I would say it's kind of two parts. The part that really accelerated my learning was actually doing my magic shows, because that was when I realized a lot of the sales process. So for better or for worse, the sales process actually helped me grow considerably. So for example, right, I thought that if I just created a great show, that everybody would want it. And that's not true.
And I'm laughing because podcast, same way.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about kind of yours.
Absolutely. No, the journey is like, I was joking with some of these sales folks I've been dealing with here recently, not dealing with, but working with recently. And it's been, I feel more like a salesperson than I ever have in my life. And it's a tough job, like literally a tough job. You have to continually just be on point, gently but nicely. People even get engaged with you, like they're interested in what you're doing, but it's your job to help nurture that. And that can be hard. And how do I do it without being a mosquito to them, or, come in with the hammer and try to, it is very nuanced on how to do that. And a lot of learnings there, 100%, totally agree with you, and I've actually myself as well used some of those to plow into my day job to be able to help sell things either better or differently than maybe I would have before.
GuidePoint Security provides trusted cybersecurity expertise, solutions, and services that help organizations make better decisions that minimize risk. Their experts, from application security to vulnerability management, act as your trusted advisor to understand your business and challenges, helping you through an evaluation of your cybersecurity posture and ecosystem to expose risk, optimize resources, and implement best fit solutions. GuidePoint's expertise has enabled 40% of Fortune 500 companies and more than half of the U.S. government cabinet-level agencies to improve their security posture and reduce risk. GuidePoint has several more premier GPSec cybersecurity conferences happening around the country this year, and another full lineup being planned for 2026. Learn more about upcoming conferences, their services and technologies, and learn more at www.guidepointsecurity.com.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I imagine one of the things is that you have to understand why your sponsors want to be around and why your podcast guests want to be around, right?
Right, exactly.
And being able to articulate those stories and explanations to each group separately is really hard.
Yes.
So one of the things as a mentalist, if I want to do a mentalism show, and I kind of use the words magic and mentalism interchangeably for the purposes of this podcast, but I thought if I built a great show, people would want to come. But that's not true. You actually want to sell it to the person who is trying to hire you specifically. Now, that could be the conference organizer. It could be your corporate CISO, if it's a internal security awareness training, or it could be their security awareness team. And each of those people want completely different things.
Yes, they do.
Right? Some of them just don't want to lose their job. That's a very negative way of looking at it. Yep. And some of them want to bring in a crowd. So if I have a lot of influencers, then they're going to want to hire me for their keynote, because then they're going to get more people coming in. Some people want me because, I know so-and-so who might then want to, help them out in a different way, right? So it could be a connection thing. And understanding all of that is exactly what I need to apply as an executive on the job. And it's all of my stakeholders are all the same people, so I get to know them really well, understand what it is that they want. And that's really what being executive is about understanding your stakeholders, understanding what your team does, being able to translate that, also being able to lead, right? So there's a lot of management stuff as well. And then just understanding how the whole machinery of a corporation works, because I can tell you I'm just a cog. And if I get really, if I'm a little out of line, the system will push me back to where I need to be. And if I'm really, really out of line, then I'm just fired.
Right.
So, but it's not like I can't change the machine.
Right.
And that is a key thing.
I think the thing that made me, when you were talking more about the sales side, is the value proposition.
Yeah.
And how it is different, and not changes per se, but different per conversation you're having. You have a kind of an overall value prop, but then you have to align the value proposition to the stakeholder and what's in it for them, or
Right.
what they feel is in it for them. I think that's one of my biggest observations. I think you touched on that, but that's where my brain went. I was like, and whether it's a story or just explaining the value prop, like what's in it for them, what motivates them, how do I align what I'm doing with what they're. And so in cyber, I think we have that opportunity. I don't think we've done a great job of it over time, but I think people being inventive like you would really help that. So I think hopefully people take a page out of your book and use some of your, not just, your mentality around it, for lack of a better way to put it, for mentalists. So
that's exactly. Mm-hmm. And I'll say just one additional thing, just as an offshoot of that. This is where the risk comes in. As cyber people, we love saying we reduce risk. Nobody else cares. Like there, besides your risk department, name one department in the organization that really focuses on risk. That's one reason why that sort of argument for a business case just doesn't really work that well, because your risk department is also not the one approving your budget.
So how do you communicate with those stakeholders? Let's say it's a business unit leader, and how do you align the idea that your job, which is to help reduce that risk, but not necessarily, like, what are you saying to them to affect them?
Sure. So I'll give you an example, again, a story, right? So if we talk about, because I work in healthcare, so I work with a lot of doctors. Well, I can tell doctors, so we increased our password number of minimum characters from X to Y many years ago. And of course, nobody wants to do that, right?
No.
And so I think the most common thing is, hey, you should do this because it is the more secure thing to do. Nobody cares. Other than us, nobody cares. Because guess what? They think it's our problem. They think it's for us to secure. So what I did instead was, rather than say A's to make us more secure and all this stuff, better risk, whatever. What I said was, hey, imagine this. Let's imagine that someone else is able to, guess your password, and then they log in to the electronic healthcare record and they write stuff that's not true about your patients or whatever. That's your reputation on the line. Guess what? That gets their attention. They don't want that, right? Like, that brought it home to them. That's what you mean by secure. You're telling me that if I don't do this, that it is likely that someone else can crack my password and then change my patient records to say things that I wouldn't want to do and then ruin my reputation? No, I'm going to increase my password length. And that's about knowing your audience.
Excellent. Yeah, no, great example. And I track that 100%. Now, funny enough, we're going to get into our last thing before we get to 10 questions with Gary Chan. Funny enough, you don't have any previous healthcare experience, really, right?
No.
Maybe a touch here or there in consulting or whatever. So how did you ramp up for your current role to change into because healthcare is special, like it really is. I having spent some time there myself. How did you get ready for it? How did you?
First off, step one is be very lucky. And step two is know somebody.
Always good.
Yeah, that's always good. So I know that doesn't answer your question directly. I will answer your question directly, but I think the first question was, how do you even get the job? Right. I think that's probably what some people are thinking. So I was fortunate in that I have some friends, and as we were saying, the St. Louis community is very tight knit. So people knew about me already from some of my work at another company here in St. Louis, and they recommended me to this. To where I currently am at SSM Health, which is a fantastic place, and just said, hey, you should talk to Gary. Knew that I did not have any healthcare experience. Fortunately, SSM was also very open to it, because they said, well, they actually were wanting someone who's not in healthcare, because the healthcare they felt was, had been doing the same thing for a while, and they actually had pegged some positions, cybersecurity being one of them, as a benefit if they were not a healthcare person, because they wanted to bring in outside people,
Right.
to kind of change things up because they were looking for innovation. So I got really, really lucky because of both things happened. And then during the interview process, the CIO at the time asked me, what could I learn about healthcare? And I thought about that, and I took the CHISSP, so this information security certification for healthcare, whatever that was. So I had an interview on Tuesday. I took the exam and passed it on Friday. And then I emailed him over the weekend and said, well, is it sufficient that I passed this thing since our conversation? And so he's like, thank you for letting me know. So that demonstrated to him that I had the interest in doing it. And then the rest of it is just learning on my own and reading and things like that. So been very lucky with that, and also been able to talk with some of my counterparts, and Matt Modica, who I think you'll meet later, BJC CISO, also super helpful, and other folks that have been in healthcare, because I knew a lot of people already. I interviewed them, not on a podcast, but
right.
And they told me their lessons learned, and I was able to learn very quickly, during that period of time.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you've had relative to making that transition into that world?
I would say the first thing that for me was that how much regulation it is. It is a lot slower, and since you've worked in the field as well, you understand that. That was sort of the first thing that I noticed, because I, prior to that, worked security and defense, which is much, much, faster.
Right.
And then and when I was working at systems integrators and VARs, they also were at the forefront because they were trying to sell, so they needed the most
velocity for sure.
Yeah, much faster velocity. So I was not used to that regulation sort of slowing me down. So I had to learn that piece. But I think that actually balanced pretty well, because I pushed my team pretty hard. And you always come up in the middle, right? So if I was kind of slower, they probably wouldn't have moved as fast. And if I had been a little faster, I probably would have broken more things without my team sort of saying, hey, gotta wait. Can't do that. So we kind of balanced each other, which is what a team is about.
And so for those that maybe get into the same position, what are some of the biggest transferable kind of successes? Like, what are the echoes that you see in both areas, from not healthcare to healthcare? Like, what are some of the things that people would be confident they could kind of drag into that?
Oh, sure. I would say 90% of the stuff is pretty similar, and I'm sure you working with a number of different folks can feel the same. The technology is the same,
right?
So I can go to any of the name any vendor. They're all the same, no matter what industry you're in. Now you may use different features,
right? But
it's still the same companies. So that's definitely there. All the principles are the same. A computer is a computer. It's a computer. Doesn't matter. It's just maybe different configurations. So a lot of the baseline stuff, and then of course being able to read policy, being able to read contracts, they're all there. You might be looking at different things. You might have different insurance thresholds and things like that. So I would say a lot of the configurations are different again, but a lot of the basics are the same. You still patch, you still do all these things. So 90% of the stuff I would say really is the same.
And of that 10%, short of taking the CHISSP, right? Where would you focus somebody that's wanting to maybe develop themselves in that area? If I'm out on the outside looking in, short of getting the experience, where might I go to maybe get some of that knowledge that I would be looking for to make myself more competitive in that space?
Sure. If there's a particular industry that you're interested in, then just look up what are the journals and magazines and things like that those people are more likely to read, and you can figure all this out, right? I mean, nowadays you can just go ask Google or Bing or whatever pick an
Chat
AI,
GPT.
right? ChatGPT, whatever, right? So you can go find that. But yeah, just go read those journals that are more specific rather than the more general ones, and you'll get a sense pretty quickly, I think, about some of the things that and challenges that folks are running into. And then otherwise, you can listen to podcasts like,
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Professional CISO is a great place, right? So,
Awesome.
a lot of options.
All right. It is time for 10 questions.
All right.
With Gary Chan. What's your favorite word?
Magic.
What's your least favorite word?
Risk.
I couldn't tell that
Could not
at
tell
all.
that, no.
What area of your work do you find most interesting?
The people, for sure.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, I mean, you're engaging and generally speaking. So, what area of your work is the most challenging for you?
I don't know. I trying to think. I just have fun.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really. I guess I don't like conflict that much, but fortunately for me, I don't really have a whole lot of that. It's not a great answer, I'm afraid. I don't.
No.
There's nothing that
the answer is the
I
answer.
would say email. Email is
There you
something
go.
that I hate. Yes,
Perfect.
I have a ton of email.
Yes. I think we heard that a little earlier. What sound or noise do you love?
I would say the ocean.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Really loud music when I'm trying to sleep.
Sounds like there might be a story behind that. What is your favorite curse word?
The F word, because it's very versatile.
Yes. And I think there's like a YouTube video or something on that people should go look out because it's amazing. And having served in the Marine Corps, I can tell you I'm probably one of those partakers. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt? And that counts for both of them, so you can't say mentalist either. Just saying.
Tour guide.
I think you would be amazing as a tour guide, literally. Probably not going to, be as successful as far as the monetary side of things, but holy smoke, you would be amazing. Any specific place you would want to do a tour guide for?
Well, I would want to be a tour guide for like 6 months or a year and different, like move around, and just see different. I love to travel. So
Absolutely.
Different cultures, different, whatever, whether it's historical building sites or fairs or whatnot, just seeing what's out there, I think just expands the mind and it's fun.
I think we have Gary's retirement plan right now. He's going to use the mentalism as the tour guide.
Good idea.
And travel the world.
And then
Heard it here first.
Then I'm gonna have a podcast and then come back on the Professional CISO.
Absolutely. You're welcome to anytime. Now, as positive as that was, what profession would you not like to do?
So I guess I don't know.
And I always say it's not an indictment on anyone.
I would say being a fitness trainer. I would love to be fit. But I think if people were to hire me as their fitness trainer, well, first off, that wouldn't happen. Then secondly, they'd be looking at me and going why did I hire this guy? So
But I guarantee you'd have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be good. And I'd be sweating it. I'd be trying hard, but I would be terrible at that.
Okay. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear your God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
That I lived a good life helping people.
That's great. Everybody, Gary Chan. Gary, thank you for coming on today. Truly appreciate it.
Fantastic conversation. Thanks so much for having me, David.
Absolutely. All right, colleagues and friends, I renew the call. It's time we must professionalize the role of the CISO. In the meantime, I wish you health, happiness, and success in your journey in becoming the professional CISO. Let's do this.
This is not meant for you to sit back in your seat. It's meant for you to sit on the edge of your seat. Topics will be ripped. They will be stripped for you to reflect and then select. That's what we do on the Professional CISO Show.